For we contend not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the world rulers of this present darkness, against the spiritual host of wickedness in the heavenly places. From the American Midwest comes This Present Darkness, where we explore the supernatural aspects of the paranormal from a Catholic perspective and expose the dark forces in our world and beyond, both seen and unseen. Now, here's your host, historian, paranormal investigator, author, and ghost lorist, Ursula Bielski.
All right, cool. All right, so you're in the van.
I'm here. Yeah, you know what? I figured I'll get away from the wife, the daughter, the dogs, and because my wife is just finishing up work now, so this way.
You said she works at home, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's so cool.
And I figured I have an investigation in the background there. On the
that's so. Awesome. You guys, I'm so happy to have with me one of the all-time great investigators. He's also one of the most prolific and long-standing paranormal investigators in the country. Dave Olson has been doing this stuff for how long, Dave? Have you been doing paranormal investigating?
You know what? I started buying gear in 2000, the beginning of 2007 and then 2008. And I started getting evidence. I'm like, oh my God, there is something out there. So in 2009 is when I kind of went nuts, really started investing heavily in equipment and then formed a team. But basically probably 2007 into 2008, I started buying stuff here and there.
Yeah. Tell us about where you are right now.
I'm kind of proud of this because I envisioned it for many years and it just fell into my lap. But I'm in what I call Misty, our command center. It's an ambulance that I converted basically into a command center, a mobile command center. And what you see behind me now is just a screen from DVR cameras from one of our last investigations in Milwaukee.
Yes, you guys are the original ghost lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't like it. She hates it in the driveway, but I don't want to get rid of it yet.
I bet all the kids in the neighborhood love it.
Oh, yeah. You know, I'll decorate it for Halloween, like for my daughter's school. I'll make it into a mini haunted house and
oh,
stuff
that's
like
so
that.
cool.
But,
yeah, that's awesome. Well, how did you get? Oh, there's one other thing about you that people should know, that you are not a full-time paranormal investigator.
No,
you have a real job.
Yeah, you know, I have over 32 years with the real job.
Yeah, and what's that job?
Chicago police. You know, this day and age, you know, I was afraid to say it the way.
Oh, I know. No, you're safe with us. You're safe with us.
Yeah, no,
and
over
thank you so much
years,
for your service.
I'm maxed out pension-wise, but I'm sticking on because of the insurance. I'm not 55 yet, so once I turn 55, I'm out. I'm gone.
Wow, you've been a cop for that long?
Yeah, I took all the testing. I was 19.
Oh, wow.
I had to wait till I turned 21, and so I'm actually getting penalized because they hired me so early. All my partners around me and my coworkers are retiring left and right.
Yeah.
And I still got maybe a couple more years to go if I want to hang on for the insurance.
Yeah. What are you going to do after you retire?
Hopefully this full time.
This full time. Yeah. Well, it's cool because over the years, I know that you've gotten to do a lot of investigations, like under the radar, like you couldn't talk about them.
Oh,
yeah, people would let you come in and do them, but you couldn't talk about them.
Yeah, you know, there's so many things that I can't put on social media because of the trust factor, but yeah, that's some really good stuff. I would
like amazing places that like everybody wants to go, and you get in there and it's just like, wow, it's so cool, but you can't say anything about it.
You're right.
Yeah. But, well, how did you get interested in investigating the paranormal?
You know, to be honest, I always had some type of sensibility. I won't call myself a psychic medium because I don't have all them type of senses, but I remember as a child, I would hear muffled conversations. And I remember even getting my mom, I'm hearing voices, a conversation. I don't know what they're trying to tell me. And as I got older, I still had that. And even to this day, even on investigations, I'll be like, "Did you hear that? That's a male or female." And I know I'm not going nuts because it's recorded.
Right.
Or people with that type of ability will also hear it, or So I have something. I just don't know what you call it.
Right.
Like I can feel, I could hear if I have to be in the zone, this type of zone, and I could actually hear it. I hate it when they try to communicate at my house because I want nothing in my house.
I'm the same, totally the same.
Outside the house is fine, or maybe
Yeah.
not when I'm driving because I don't want to
Right.
spook me and get in an accident.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's how I got into it. So
yeah.
um, it kind of opened my eyes to it that there might be something out there. But as I got older, and especially on a job, I got a little more skeptical. So I really had to start experiencing things for myself. And so that's when I started buying equipment. And I would always watch stuff on TV, read books, documentaries. But until I actually experienced it for myself, that's when I become a believer that there's something out there.
It's interesting that you say that as a police officer, because it seems like a lot of police officers, I'm thinking like immediately like Ralph Sarchi in New York, who was, who inspired Deliver Us from Evil, the Hollywood movie, who got into it and started studying with Ed and Lauren Morton because of stuff that happened on the job. And I remember my dad, when we were kids and we would hear footsteps and stuff in the house, he would say, "Oh, it's spooks, go back to bed." And he always said there was many people that they had calls that they went to where people swore there was someone in the house. They heard Bedford's footsteps. They had seen somebody and there was no one there. But you said when you got on the job, you actually became more skeptical.
Yeah, you're always looking for answers, out there. You're trying to think logical. But I knew I was kind of lying to myself. I knew because when I was younger, what I experienced, I knew there was something, but I was kind of in denial a little bit. But you're right. There's a lot of coworkers, some of even higher up bosses will talk to me and open up and said, "Yeah, the house I used to live in or I grew up in had activity." And so, no, you're right. There's a lot of officers that do believe, firemen, even
Yeah.
from on the job experiences, stuff they came across that they really can't explain.
I read one of the books that I always recommend, and I don't know if it's true or not. Really come to believe that a lot of this is true. I don't know if you're familiar with this book. It's called The Unquiet Dead by a woman named Edith Fiore.
Yeah,
Have you
I
heard of
haven't
it?
read it yet, but I have heard of it.
Yeah, apparently she was a psychiatrist for decades, and she had some 4,000 patients that she was convinced, because she had hypnotized them, she was convinced that these people were possessed by spirits. They had mental illnesses and or personality disorders that developed in them, where they hadn't had them before, like they suddenly came upon them.
Wow.
And person after person after person, she said she started to hypnotize them, and they said that these other voices would come out, and they would say, for example, like, "Yeah, my name is this, and I went into her when she had surgery for whatever, and this such and such a year. And
Wow.
I had died in the hospital, and I was scared, and she was there. So I went into her." And it was very interesting because she found that the majority of the people that this happened to, or that she felt this happened to, were first responders. So they were doctors, nurses in hospitals, they were firemen, they were cops,
Yeah.
that were around accidents and murders and people that had just died.
Man, as you're talking about that, I'm getting charged. Wow.
It's weird, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's really strange when you think about it.
I
Seems like
believe
as the
that's
years.
a very good possibility. I really do. The psychic mediums I deal with tell me, even if I'm not paranormal investigating, ghost hunting, that because of the career I'm in, all that negative activity, all that energy that's out there, I'm bringing it home. So even if I wasn't investigating, I should be saging and doing all these things to myself anyway. So I'm not bringing all this energy home. Praying, yes, yes. As you can, I don't know if you can see it, but little
Oh,
of the cross. Yes,
awesome!
I have everything.
Good job. But yeah, it's I'm sorry, you just cut out there.
Oh, could you hear me?
Yeah, there was just a little glitch in the video.
Okay. Yeah, there's things that happen to me that I mean, I always believed in God, but things that happened to me while investigating and bringing stuff home that I really had to learn to protect myself. And so I started getting a lot of things blessed, and from crosses to medals to and going to church and a little more often,
Yeah.
and using that holy water to cleanse myself along with
Yeah.
other things. So
I've seen such a difference too, it's just how reckless I was being, going to all these places and using Ouija boards and the whole bit, everything under the sun,
I
and
haven't
I'd
used the
come
Ouija board.
home and I'd wake up with bruises all over me, like
Oh wow.
handprints. And I started to actually hear people talking, like saying my name, like audibly,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, I got to the point where I was like, this is getting a little too intense. I don't think this is supposed to happen.
Right.
So it's very quiet now.
Well, good. Very good.
Quiet now here. So yeah, I was gonna ask you, did you bring things home with you?
Yeah, and like I said, until I experienced that myself, I didn't believe. I'm like, the stuff I saw, reading documentaries, reading books and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's full of crap. It can't happen, but
Yeah.
yes, it can.
Yeah.
There's been at least a handful of times before I started protecting myself, my team, even my truck after every investigation, all my equipment.
Yeah.
There's stuff I do. And when I do it, everything appears to be fine. It's when sometimes it's 5 in the morning and I still got a 4 hour drive back home or
Right.
something. And all I want to do is go to sleep. Sometimes I'll forget or just be lazy and not do it. And that's now I got something following me. I just
Yeah.
think, thank God, nothing bad. But I think it's something that knew I saw it, heard it, got it on recording and still wants to communicate.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's there's definitely, again, it's really amazing to me there are so many people that still don't even believe that there's another realm all around us. It just seems, are you kidding me?
yeah, I
Seriously?
can
Like, how is
honestly
that
say,
possible? That you haven't encountered anything that's told you otherwise.
right. Yeah, no, I can honestly say from my experiences, there's something out there. I could never say 100% what it is, but just from my experiences, my beliefs, you know, I believe it's spirits, but there's definitely something out there.
Yeah. Well, tonight we're talking about, I know you and me both have had a long time interest in, like instrumental transcommunication, or especially EVP. And
Yes.
the way that these entities, whatever they are, and there's a lot of different ones, the way they can sometimes seem to use televisions, radios, telephones to
Yeah.
communicate with us. And I've had some kind of hair-raising experiences with this. And one of my favorite books ever is a book called Phone Calls from the Dead. Did you ever read that, by D. Scott Rogo, the parapsychologist?
No, but that's something I would like to look into.
Yeah, it's the books. I have the book somewhere. I could copy it for you, because there's like, the books are like $300. Like, there's not a lot of them out there,
Uh-huh.
but I can like scan it for you or something. But
Thank you.
it's yeah, I mean, there's case after case after case of people who have gotten phone calls from people who have passed away. And it's very weird. I haven't had an experience like that, but my brother had this experience probably about 15 years ago now. And it wasn't a ghost thing. It was like an alien thing or UFO thing. When we were young, he used to have these, I mean, he called them dreams, but they were basically abduction experiences, where
Oh,
he said
wow.
aliens came into his room and took him away. And I was having sleep paralysis at the same time. Like, I would wake up and feel like he needed me, like desperately needed me. And then we were little kids, and I was in my
Wow.
room down the hall, but I couldn't move to go to him, or to, I couldn't speak to call out for a mom. And this went on, I don't know how many times when we were kids. And we're estranged now. So I haven't talked to him in the last like year or so, that I've gotten really into like UFO research. But he had this experience when, and he was a police officer. He's in the FBI now. He is in the Naval Reserves, and he was coming home from his duty weekend about 15 years ago at Great Lakes. And this was right when people started to get like to do like texting on their phones. And he had
Okay.
never sent or gotten a text message yet. And he was driving home on Sunday night from his duty. And he got this text alert on his cell phone, and he had to pull over because he didn't know how to read the message, right? Because he's never gotten one before. So he
Right.
pulled over, he figured out how to open the message, and the message was coming from his old cell phone. This was like when you changed carriers, you couldn't keep your phone number. So
Yes.
it was his old phone number coming from his dead old cell phone that was locked up in a file cabinet in the old bedroom where he slept when we were kids at my mom's
Wow.
house. And the message said, prepare to shed your container. He was so scared. He called me up. I mean, he was like 45 years old and he was crying. He was so shaken up. He said, I'm scared these things, whatever these things were, are going to come back for me, or I'm going to die or something, you know? And
No,
it's
I wonder
crazy.
what they mean, but shed the container. I mean, are they calling our body the
Yeah. Well,
container where they get the
the
change?
weird thing about it was this past year, as I've been doing this UFO researcher, I don't know if you're familiar with it all. Are you into
Oh
UFOs at
yes,
all?
yes.
Bob Lazar, the guy that claimed he worked at Area 51 reverse engineering
Right.
UFOs, he said that he was debriefed by like thousands of pages of documents he had to read, right? About the nature of aliens. And he said he read that aliens refer to us as containers. And when
Oh
I read that, I
wow.
was like, oh my God, what the
It's
hell
nice
is
how
happening?
it's like a puzzle putting these puzzle pieces
I
together.
know,
And
it's so
wow, that's
creepy.
amazing.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, we're talking about the attachments, is the Skinwalker Ranch thing.
I would
Like George
love,
Knapp and those guys. Oh,
yeah.
wouldn't you love? Oh, you got to
Oh
take
my
you to
God, I would
take the
love to
van
go there.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be a dream. It really
But
would.
those hardcore researchers there all talk about, they call it the hitchhiker syndrome, where they say that people that go there bring, like, stuff starts happening to them when they go home after they go to Skinwalker Ranch.
Now you wonder if that's spirit activity or if it's something
Yeah,
alien
or if it's
wise.
all the same thing,
Well, that's true too. Yeah,
so weird.
yeah.
Anyway, I digress. So we were talking about the phone calls, and you had this case, or maybe still have this case,
It still bothers me. I tell you,
and it still bothers me. And you told me about it the first time, I don't know how many, probably like 8 years ago now.
yeah.
And I always think about it. And the weirdest thing is that something similar happened to one of the people that came on our tours. I mean, it was just a one-off thing
Uh-huh.
that happened to him, which I'll talk about later. But there was a lot of activity in this case that involved telephone, and it was landline, right?
Yeah, this was through the her landline, and it broke her landline.
Yeah. All
And
right. So let's go, if you don't mind,
sure.
go back and give us the backstory on how you got called to this case, where it was, what was going on, and then tell us about what happened.
All right, I get a call from this lady. I'm working my side job. I had a long day. I had the police department. Then for over 28 years, I've been working security at city colleges, at Wright College, and the grounds there has a whole history, as you know.
Dunning.
This is what got me into investigating, also
Oh.
the grounds of Dunning. But anyway, so I get a call just before I'm getting off work from this lady. It's maybe about quarter to 11 o'clock, and I'm getting off at 11, and she's telling me she would like me to come over. Her husband's a fireman, and I mean, she's legit. He's legit. They redid the house, and they stirred up something that seemed to be dormant. And after they redid the house, he started having night terrors to the point where he went to the doctors. He had sleep studies. They couldn't find anything wrong with him. And he would never have him at the firehouse, only in the house. And then people would come visit. They wouldn't want to stay. Like if they were supposed to stay the weekend, they'd leave maybe the same day or the next day. Daughter stopped sleeping in her bedroom. And so she started recording some of his night terrors on her cell phone. So what she did, she called me from her landline, her house phone, and started as I left the college driving home, I had it on the speaker. She started playing these 5 clips for me, and she said, "Listen closely because I could hear a female voice moaning my husband's name as he's screaming." And I tell you, these recordings were terrifying. It's like he's being not only attacked but raped, um, and he's screaming for his life. And so I pulled up into my driveway. It's pitch dark. It's probably about 11:15, 11:20. I stayed outside because I don't want to wake up my wife and daughter. My daughter was really young at the time. And then plus I wanted to keep a clear signal on my cell phone so I wouldn't drop a call. So I'm standing in my driveway in the pitch dark. I'm listening to the last recording she had, and I could hear something that sounded like a voice, but over the phone it's hard to make out. So I told her, I said, I could hear something, but I can't make it out over the phone. And oh man, just thinking about it gives me the chills. I'm standing there and I start hearing a voice coming through the phone line. Now, the only way I could describe it, if you watched like The Exorcist or movies like that with a demonic type voice, that
Right.
that's what's coming through the phone lines. And at first I thought it was her, so I started getting angry. I'm like, do you think this is funny? I worked a double shift. I'm dead tired, and you're pulling this, trying to pull this on me. And she goes, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "You don't hear the." I asked her, "You don't hear this voice?" And she goes, "No, I hear your phone going in and out, but I don't hear the voice." Now I started hearing the voice talking over her. So I know it's not her now. And now it's moaning her husband's name, like Diddy. And she goes, I can hear it. And it's moaning my name, David, in that type of voice. And I'm in shock. I'm standing there. I'm like, what the F's going on here? And then the phone lines went dead. And I'm standing in the pitch darkness in shock. And within seconds, it's like 2 fingers start choking me. I couldn't breathe.
Mm.
And I'm starting to freak out. And the only thing I could think of is I was leaning against my car and I left the front door window open. The only thing I saw was my cross. So I grabbed my cross and started to put it on. And then I could finally breathe again. But I could feel the pressure being pushed in, choking me. And I'm standing there and I'm freaked out. And she calls me back maybe a minute later and she goes, "Dave, I'm so sorry. I have to call you back from my cell phone. My home phone, I can't get a dial tone. It's broken." And then this voice came back, and I tell you, it's this hideous laugh. I'll never forget it as long as I live. But it would not let me get her address. It would not let me set a date to go over there. And it was, I don't know if it was even talking English at times. It was unbelievable.
Could
And
you discern anything that the voice was saying?
it no, it's the way it laughed, and it almost sounded, I don't know if it could be another language or almost like kid like playing jokes. I can't even.
Yeah, like taunting or
Yes, something. Yeah, it's just, and it would, every time I tried to set up something to go over there or to get her address, it just blocked it. By laughing and saying what it was saying, and this lasted maybe 20 minutes or more. And
So it was actually trying to prevent you from making arrangements to go over and help her.
But what if I did? I don't want to back down on a case if someone really needs help. That's what I'm doing this for. I know I got to be very cautious, and this opened my eyes to something possibly evil out there. I wasn't sure what I believed before, but this case and a few others kind of opened my eyes to that. But what if I went there? What would have happened?
Yeah.
Because the goal of the demonic is to destroy almost like put a curse and, destroy your life, and maybe eventually you or a family member commit suicide or something, and
Right.
but it bugs me to this day. It bugs me because I don't know if she's okay, what's going on with her.
So did you ever hear back? So
No,
after you never
no,
heard
it
back from
freaked
her?
her out. It freaked me out. I wasn't right for at least 3 days to a week.
Yeah.
I wasn't myself.
Mm.
I don't know what that, I don't know if, yeah, if that was a warning saying you do this, I'm gonna, you're gonna pay for it, you and your family
Right.
or something. And so that one almost made me give this up. That opened up a whole nother side that I had to learn to try to protect myself and my family and everyone else involved. Um, and yeah, it still bothers me. It really does.
There was it was right before, just like everybody else, we had our tour company, the ghost tour company, shut down in March of 2020. And one of the last tours we did, my husband Dave was the tour guide, and there was a businessman on the tour, and he had read my books about like and read about the Congress Hotel, very haunted hotel here in Chicago. Of course, I'm sure you've
Oh
investigated
yeah.
there a million times. And so he's like, oh, well, I'll stay at the Congress and then go on the tour, because we used to pick up our tours there. And so he got into town in the early afternoon and he checked the hotel and he laid down. He was going to lie down and take a nap, and then meet someone that he knew in Chicago for dinner before going on the tour in the
Mhm.
evening. So he had just laid down in the room to take a nap, and they still had the phones, yeah, in the rooms, so you could
Okay.
call switchboard or room service or
Right.
whatever. And so he lays down to take a nap and like literally just like lay down on the bed, and the phone rings. And nobody knew, like, like, it's like, what the
It
heck?
was
He had a cell phone, like, who's calling me here? So he answers the phone, and there's static on the phone. And then this gravelly voice, couldn't tell if it was even male or female, starts to tell him that he needs to kill himself.
oh wow.
And of course he hangs up and says, who is this? Whatever, whatever, and then hangs up. And then he I mean, it's like a movie. He calls the switchboard downstairs, and told them what happened. And they said, no, there's not been a call into that room in like 9 months.
Holy cow.
So then he goes down later, has some dinner, and he's waiting in the lobby, or to wait in the lobby for his friends to go to dinner. And he happens to talk to the busboys who they have like a busboy station down there in the lobby, right between the concierge desk and the bar.
Mhm.
They
I can
always hang
picture it.
out
Right.
there. So he starts talking to the bus boys, and or not the bus boys, the bell boys. And he says, like, yeah, this is what happened to me in my room. I got this phone call, and they said, are you in room? And he said, yeah. And they said that happens all the time.
Oh wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's another one for the Congress Hotel.
Yes, it's cool how you have an experience and then it can be backed up by
Yeah.
other people having the same experience.
Yeah.
And it's wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I tell you,
What are some, you've seen a lot of stuff. Have you have you been on other cases that really disturbed you like that, where you felt that there was something there that probably wasn't a human spirit?
yeah, there's a couple cases. There's one, the first time I ever got a deep scratch and attacked twice. Sometimes you could be on an investigation, and I believe you could get like a welt or a mark, but I don't think the spirit or whatever it is meaning harm to you. You know how everything's electricity, and you get that static charge.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you could get the spirit might be trying to touch you, just maybe just a tap, and then you get that zap, and now you got a welt. I don't think its intent was to hurt you. It's just that the energy leaving a mark.
Right.
That's my experience. But anyway, I went to a psychic medium's house. They just moved in, and she knew there was spirits there. There was actually, we found out with that investigation, spirits attached to objects. Once she got rid of, the spirits left. But there was something that she believes came from outside, and it was drawn to her because she lived there about 6 months, and she started doing readings there over the phone, in person. And so this
Mm-hmm.
unhuman entity,
Mm-hmm.
this is amazing how it actually all worked out, because we had an investigator. I think you met him once, Victor.
Oh
And
yeah,
the
sure.
first
I
time
remember
ever,
Victor.
the spirit showed us what was going on in the house. A grown man crying, he started bawling, crying because the spirit was showing him what this evil thing was doing. It was holding these other spirits captive and drawing their energy. And this is why it came from outside from the land, came in because uh, she knew Lorianne was giving these readings and these spirits were coming to her. And then it was like putting these spirits in prison, almost, keeping them there to draw their energy. And so when I get to this house, she goes, Dave, can you do me this favor? She goes, I'm not sure how I want to handle this case yet, but I know there's spirits here, but I think there's something here that's not human, and it's starting to bug her stepkids. So yeah, I'm like, she did me loads of favors in the past, so I drove out there, and within 15, 20 minutes, and it's a God's honest truth, I'm standing there saying hello, and something leaves, I forget what side of the face, but a big welt, like a finger long, and then it dug in, ripped my ear, made my ear bleed, and then ripped my neck.
Gosh.
Yeah, right in front of everyone's eyes. And I didn't even do anything. I just got there like 20, maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And they're looking, Dave, you're getting scratched, you're getting marked. And then it got me again later that night. And I was burning. I remember about 2 in the morning, we were going to do a EVP session, a group, try to get some answers, even with the homeowners wanted to be a part of it. And I'm burning in the neck, and they're looking, and long lines of welts are forming on my neck. And that's the first time I've ever felt threatened, like someone wanted to do me harm. And she picked up, she didn't think it was it was a non-human spirit, and it came from the land somewhere. And eventually she sold the house, but she needed help on that one. That was one that was didn't want to leave, due to her giving readings and holding these other spirits hostage. And what was so cool, where Victor described the spirit that was almost going in him and letting him see all these visions on what's going on. He described this male that's given him all this information, and she goes, "Oh my God, I gave a reading to his sister or his wife or something, like maybe a month ago, and it was I think the spirit was like from Europe, died in a motorcycle accident or something like that." And so he's the one that gave all this information to Victor, and he was crying, and he described the spirit the way the male spirit described to him, almost looked like a banshee, like a wild haired old lady. But that's what I believe attacked me. And yeah, that I was, to be honest, before driving home, I wanted to get a couple hours of sleep, but I was nervous to fall asleep because I thought I was going to get attacked a third time. But it's weird. Once I left all the property, once I drove away, all the markings on my face and welts, everything just disappeared.
Really?
Like you see in the movies.
Yeah.
How's that possible?
Crazy. There's a lot of this stuff that's like the movie. It really is.
Yeah, almost like the Conjuring, where when that evil entity left her, and she at the very end she went outside, and all the markings went away, and
right.
But there was one that I almost didn't take the case. This I think was dark, possibly demonic evil, but it was a home right near Bachelor's Grove. So it was like newer condos, and behind the condos were the forest preserves, and then behind the forest preserves was Bachelor's Grove. And they were having a lot of activity there. And this is another dark entity that came to me. I don't know what it was at first, but I get a call from her, and this is what's going on. I'd like you to take the case. But before I take any cases, I talk to the team members, because a lot of times we have to make sure it's worth it, because we got to take off of work, and right, so it's costing us taking a vacation day or personal day or whatever. So it ends up costing us money if it doesn't fall on our day off. So we want to make sure that it's worth taking the case. And so everyone was for it, wanted to do the case. And that night, I never even told my wife. Maybe she heard some conversations I had now, but I never told her. But we were sleeping in bed, and I could see it, this long, tall, dark being that, really tall, was standing to the right side of our bed, and it showed itself for like 2 or 3 days. And I don't know, I'm like, what the heck is it? It's darker than dark. It's like a huge big shadow. And I felt it. I didn't feel it was right. So I called a medium of mine that I use a lot, Susan Rowland, and she was the first one I called. And I said, I'm like, Susan, could you do me a favor? I said, I got a call on this case, and I'm not sure if I want to. It's something weird. I'm not sure if I'm going to take it or not. And boom, she starts picking it up, and she goes, Dave, don't do it. It's going to destroy your life. I see it. She goes, you were visited by it already. And she started describing it. And she said it came. Oh man, I'm sorry.
You got the chills thinking about it.
Oh. But she says it came from Bachelor's Grove, and she didn't even know Bachelor's Grove. She's never been there, know nothing about it. Well, she said it's from a small cemetery within the area, but she didn't know the name of it.
For the viewers and listeners that aren't familiar with Bachelor's Grove, it's known as one of the world's most haunted places. It's just a little 1-acre abandoned cemetery outside of Chicago in a suburban area with forest preserve around it.
Yeah. Yes. And she described it as like a shapeshifter. And have you ever heard anything at Bachelor's Grove that's like a shapeshifter? That she described it? It could be human form, and then would drop the 4 legs as an animal. And to her, it said it looked like a jackal.
No, I've heard about people seeing black dogs there, but not specifically saying anything like that, shape shifting or anything with that description.
She described it coming from there, and she goes, Dave, it's evil. I feel it. She goes, it's not worth it. It's going to destroy you and your family. This one, to take a pass. This is not worth it. And this is the first time something like this happened to me. So I'm like, oh man, I said, I never turned down a case where people needed help before, and I want to be able to document this stuff. This is why I'm doing it. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to tell the team this is what I was told, and we'll make a decision as a team if it's worth pursuing or not. So we were trying to decide to, if we're going to do it, because I had to tell the client if we're going to do it or not. And I'm like, let me make a second call. And so I called another medium from another state, and she described the same exact thing. She goes, Dave, don't do it. She just described it as like a shapeshifter. It would go 2 legs to 4 legs, but she didn't describe actually what animal it looked like or whatever. But she's like, and then she described the inside of the house, and she goes, Dave, don't do it. I agree. Pass this case up. And so then I told the team, I'm like, you know what? This is serious. 2 mediums that don't know each other picked up the same thing. And this one we probably should pass on, because this is not worth, if it's demonic causing all this negativity. And so I called the client. I explained everything, what went on, and that we apologize. Just for our safety, we're gonna take a pass. Keep in touch, and if things get worse, we'll try to figure out something or get you some help. And I get a call maybe 2 days before the investigation was supposed to happen originally, and she goes, Dave, this thing is gone. She's like, I don't see it anymore. She goes, I feel you're safe now to take the case. Whatever is there is gone. And so we ended up taking the case, and everything was fine.
Interesting.
Yeah. But whatever it was, I think it was warning me. I didn't even know at the time, but I felt it. I saw it. And I think it was showing itself, like trying to scare me. You take this case.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
So that one scared me too, because like I said, most cases I handle are earthbound spirits that haven't moved on, and, stuff like that. But that year, it's like some darker cases started coming up, and so that really got me into learning how to protect myself, my team, my family, by, I'm not here to preach religious items, and then also saging, Palo Santo, along with all anointment oils and all kind of stuff, that I do.
Have your, you have one daughter, you have more children than that?
One daughter, yes.
And has she ever experienced any of your take home?
No, but you know what? I think
entertainment.
I think she was born with the same ability I have.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah.
Hmm.
Psychic mediums told me, she goes, Dave, even before my daughter was born, she goes, she has the same gift, whatever my gift is. She has something very similar. And she goes, a couple of them said that they see us working together later down the line.
Hmm.
But
Is
because
she
as a
interested in
child,
paranormal investigating?
I'm sorry.
Is she interested in paranormal investigating?
Yeah, I haven't, just like little stuff when her and her school friends are sleeping over. I'll just take them around with some gear. Like I'm a block away from a cemetery. Actually, the last time I took them out, we got some really good voices coming through the spirit box, and it scared them. They all, right, they're like Scooby Doo running back home, and
That's
I'm like,
so
oh, I'm going to
funny.
hear it from the parents now. But yeah, they're a little bit. She knows something's out there, and she would hear voices even as a little. When she's 12 now. When she was younger, she goes, "Dad, did you hear that? That was, it was a male voice or a kid's voice, and or
Well,
whatever."
it's just the same as you.
Yeah, and I just blew it off. I heard it too, but I'm like, no, that was from outside. I don't want her to get scared and then stop sleeping
Right.
in her room. But yeah, she has that ability where she's hearing. Yeah, just
Yeah.
kind of just like me. So
Yeah. Wow. Well, what are you working on right now?
that's I got some cases actually coming up. I haven't set a date yet. There's a couple in Wisconsin. Um, there's I might be doing the old 17 district. I had that all set up
Oh, wow.
a couple years ago. The one on like Sunnyside and
Yeah.
Pulaski. I had that set up a few years ago, uh, and then all the days off for the city employees and police were canceled. I worked so hard to get that all set up. It took me about a year, and then it was supposed to be my day off, and I had it all set to go, and then they canceled my day off. I had no choice, and I called the guy up. I'm so sorry that I can't do it now because I had no choice. They canceled my day off, and then COVID hit. But I got in touch with him again because he was selling the property, and it looks like he's going to allow me to do it again. So
Oh,
it's
good.
really cool because I know officers that used to work that old
Oh,
station. So
yeah.
I'm going to do a walkthrough with them and have them let me know where the jail cells were and where the commander's office was and stuff like that.
Did I ever tell you one of the first when I was little, my dad was 52 when I was born. So he was way retired when I was a little kid. And he used to take me all over the city and to the districts where he used to work. And he retired out of Maxwell Street.
Maxwell Street. That was okay.
Yeah, and I remember the watch commander telling me that they would still hear like screaming and sobbing coming from the old lockup in the basement, which, as you know, is notorious, for the criminals they held down there. And I mean, this was like, you guys, this was like one of the worst ghettos in like world history.
Right.
Maxwell Street was like the center of immigration in the Midwest, in the late 19th century. There was like hundreds of thousands of immigrants pouring in there, and it was total lawlessness and then graft and everything else going on. But the Maxwell Street station was just notorious for the stuff that was going on in the lockup. And they said even in the early 1970s, when I was a kid, that they would still literally hear men screaming and sobbing from down there, even though they hadn't used it for years. And Daly had the bars sawn down to the ground, and they said it was just to get rid of like the reminder of like how deplorable it was down there. But the watch commander said it was because they were trying to stop the stuff from happening, this audio stuff that they were hearing, and they thought if they saw the bars down, like maybe it would go away, or whatever, the spirits wouldn't recognize the place anymore, something, I don't know what, but
Yeah,
that's one of the first things I remember.
You know what? I got into the old, a couple old stations, and the old 12th District Racing in Monroe.
Yeah.
Was turned into a children's theater, but I don't know what it is now. But
Good move.
but I was talking to the workers there. there was a lot of asbestos they had to remove, and then they removed all the jail cells. And the foreman told me, Dave, he goes, my workers don't want to stay here. Sometimes they're alone or they're too deep doing work, and they're hearing all these voices and all these noises, and it's scaring, and they want to leave. They don't want to work there anymore. And so he allowed me to go in there overnight. I remember the night of the investigation, I had strep throat. I didn't realize I was so sick, but I don't want to give up the chance of investigating. But I was so sick. But yeah, we investigated the place, and we got a lot of interesting that lockup area, the room that the police used to make like the little kitchen area sandwiches and stuff. There was a lot of activity in there. The old tactical office, but it was really cool. You know where I got? Oh man, I don't want to get in trouble, but I got led into talking to the foreman before it opened up. Way before it opened up as a hotel, was the old Cook County Hospital.
You got in there before it? Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah,
I asked them if I could go in there and
and
do some research, and they wouldn't let me.
Yeah, I went downtown and had a meeting with the bigwigs and stuff, and
Yeah,
it looked good at first because it ended up I knew a couple people that I didn't know worked there, the management company and stuff, but there was so much mold, so much water. They were just afraid something bad might happen in lawsuits. So I understand
same
that.
thing they told me too. Yeah,
But I would drive there past like almost every day when I worked at that time out of the 911 center to OMC off of Madison there, and so I would purposely take the long way around just to see someone, so to see if I could get in there. And a construction company had a 90-day detail there for the new owners to see if it's worth investing all this money into, and see what they could sell that's in there and whatever else. And so the foreman, it was my partner and I, he goes, yeah, come on, I will walk through there. I had to wear masks and stuff, and I had no equipment. I just had my phone. So we're walking through, and he takes us down to the lowest area, like where the morgue and stuff was. And I caught at least five unexplained voices on my phone. I just had it on camcorder.
and you're
Wasn't
really
ours. So it was just my partner, me, and the foreman. And so I went home, downloaded it, and then the next day I went over there and I played it for him. And the very last voice, we're standing there just before we were going to leave, and I think it was right around where the emergency room would have been. He goes, "They're not leaving." Clear as day, a voice comes through, and they could see this is like a 60-year-old foreman. He's like, "Dave, I knew I didn't want to go in there," And then he told me that day, he goes, "They're reassigning me. This is my last day here. I got a meeting I got to go to in about 5 hours. If you could, I'll give you 5 hours in there. I'll lock you in there, and you can do what you want, and then you got to leave." And so I was working. I raced. I went and took time. I told the boss I got to leave. So I took like 4 hours.
Can you just back up like for 10 seconds? Because there was just a glitch in the video.
Okay.
I think it was my internet. My internet is so bad here, but it's good now. So just start back over like when he said that you could stay there for like 5 hours.
Oh yeah. So the foreman said, "Hey, if you could get back here in about 45 minutes, I'll give you about 4 or 5 hours in there." He's being reassigned somewhere else. So I raced home, told the boss, filled out the slip. I need to take 4 hours at the end. Got some equipment from the house and raced back. And so I was locked in there for at least 4.5 hours. And I could, I admit I had a man up. I was nervous, not just for spirit activity, but if homeless,
heck
rats, whatever,
Yeah.
Rats were probably huge in there.
Especially rats.
Yeah. So but I could hear, it's so weird. I could hear, I forgot what floor I was on, but I could hear something following me. I could hear the footsteps. I would walk, and then I'd stop, and I could hear it like following me.
Yeah.
And then I probably let out a scream like a little kid, I admit. I said, "Make a noise in the room so I know where you're at, and I'll come in there." So I hear the noise, and I walk in, and it's pitch dark, and I put the flashlight on, and something dark went through the ceiling like really fast. I'm assuming it was a rat, but I probably like a little kid, I'm like, But yeah, that place was cool. I would have loved to do a long investigation there, but I'm thankful I was allowed in there for a few hours.
Yeah. Have you any, hear through the grapevine as a cop, any weird calls to the hotel that's in there now?
No, you know what? Since I'm out at the airport, I don't hear the radio zones anymore
Oh
like that.
yeah.
But
Oh
that's
yeah.
something I gotta find out. That's
I got my eye on that place and the whatchamacallit. Oh, the new school that they built at Dunning. They
oh
built that
yeah,
new high school. For the
I,
viewers who don't know what Dunning is here in Chicago, the old Chicago State Hospital, mental hospital was also called Dunning, was on this huge tract of land out on the west side of the city. And few years back now, when they were building Wright College, where you work part-time
yeah,
on as a security guard,
right.
they found 5 lost cemeteries from the poor farm that was there and the mental hospital that was there. And so a lot of those bodies they just built over, they just turned them into the soil and built over tens of thousands of bodies.
It's
But
almost like
now
the
they
zoo, right?
it's
It's like the
crazy.
zoo.
Yeah, now
Well,
they built a high school. They built
yeah.
the city of Chicago built a new high school there. So I'm waiting for the stories to start coming in.
It's gotta be. I tell you, what got me into this also becoming an investigator. I think I started working. Let's see, probably in '93. I want to say I started working the Wright College. I had teachers talk about activity, engineers, housekeeping, janitors,
Yeah,
and security. I mean, these were some of these older guys. They're not gonna lie. Some of them were 50 years old, and
right.
I remember this stuck with me. We used to have an old black and white TV at the center at the front there, and they would bring it back and forth. This guy was about 50 years old. He's there alone on a Sunday night. No one in the building. Everything's locked down, and he's carrying the black and white TV to bring back in our office, which is in the science building where the cafeteria and stuff is. And he has his head down, walking the route, a little curve around the cafeteria, and he sees a pair of legs, and he jumps. He's like, "Oh, excuse me!" He thought he was going to hit someone head on, and he looks, and it's gone. And he goes, "Dave, I saw it. I saw the legs. I saw, like up to the hip." And so it freaked him out, and he went to our office, dropped the TV, and then when he exited our office in the same area, he's moaning and crying. He goes, "Oh my God, there's someone crying." And he's looking all around, and then he got the keys and unlocked an emergency door, thinking that a female's crying right outside in the darkness, and there was no one there. And he said he was so scared that he locked everything up and just stayed up at the front the whole night.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I had experiences myself there. From I saw something in the library, and this is before I bought equipment and stuff. I was there alone, and there was 3 chains I had to put on the emergency doors. And I walk in the library, and I had that feeling that I'm being watched. Something wasn't right, and happened to look up, and about 4 floors up, it's the pyramid building, and the like 4th level up or 3.5 levels up, I see a shadow darker than dark, and it's either leaning on the railing, if it's an adult, it's leaning over, or it's child size, that it's just that height. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, what is that? So I'm trying to do the right thing, skeptical. Okay, it's not, making sure it's not my shadow. I'm moving my hands and making sure I'm not casting it. But I knew in my heart, there's no way in the world because it's dark. And then it flew up in the air like a mist from a form. It just whoosh, went up and floated away. And that's before I started investigating. So I probably did the Shaggy and Scooby Doo thing, like, get out of there.
What about, have you ever, I don't think I ever asked you, did you ever do set up at the site where the murder castle was?
No, but I would have loved to.
Yeah.
I've been in areas near there investigating, but
I know, I remember you
location.
saying that you were going to check out a place in Englewood that one time.
Yeah, that place is so cool, and I don't know if I could ever get in there again. That was just a connection I had, and And at the time when I was doing all these street surveillance cameras, the street cameras, I really helped. I got to know electricians, radio tower guys, and I caught probably my best full-bodied apparition out of that place. And that's not far from that location where the post office and the
Right. Yeah.
in Englewood there. And grown men my age, older than me, would go in there. It's a city-owned building. It used to be called the Englewood Fire Alarm Office. And if I understand correctly, it would dispatch fire trucks from Pershing Road, which is 3900 South, to the city limits. And the reason the city still has that building is because one of the rooms in the basement has fiber that goes underground. And I don't know if it goes all the way to the 911 center or what, but I think that's why they still hang in that building. But grown men my age would be in there, they would go in there when they have some downtime, and they would hear voices, disembodied voices, the footsteps, movement. And so it would scare them because they know they're the only ones in there. They would look through everything and couldn't find anyone else in there. And the last straw was one of the guys was at the urinal, and he goes, Dave, it's an older guy, he's not gonna lie. He goes, I got shoved, hit the urinal, bounced off the wall. And then they're like, okay, let's call Dave and figure out what's going on here. And I caught a full-bodied apparition, and I got a lot of language. Even in some of the police stations that we're at, I would get a lot of EVPs of this was a lot of like fire trucks, send the big truck, send the tall truck. So I think a lot of it leads to
Wow, that's so interesting.
old dispatchers, to firemen. I think that place maybe dispatched the first ambulance for the South Side.
Really?
But yeah, even police stations, I'll get EVPs voices back when it was an active station of I was in the old 16th district, Gale Street, and I get an EVP, better go to roll call, or he must be looking for a car. I was right by the radio room where they pass out keys and the radios for cars. And I actually caught gunshots, 6 gunshots in a voice from the Gale Street old 16th district. And I found out, I didn't know at the time, but I found out later that room where the gunshots came from used to be a gun range. I had no idea before, but yeah, and it's residual. I mean, because I it's 2 shots, a voice, 2 shots. And it only came from that room because all my other recording devices, I had that place saturated with cameras and audio recorders. Nothing else picked it up, but that room, it was amazing.
That's wild when you have a residual haunting and you experience the exact same sequence of phenomena that other people have. It's one thing to like, oh yeah, I heard voices in there too, or I saw a figure in there too. But when you have like one thing after another, like that sequence of events or sounds or whatever. Have you been to the Saddamsville Rectory in Cincinnati?
No, that's on my list. One of these days, I'm going to go out there, but no, I haven't been out there yet. But I heard other people have been out there.
One of the top 3 most freakish things. In fact, I was on that show, Haunted Case Files, where
I saw that. Yeah,
it's like your like investigators' top 3 most terrifying things, and that was one of them because I mean there were like maybe 8 of us there, and we all heard like the same sequence of things and experienced the same sequence of things. And the next day, like myself and another person that was there, Dave Wismar, I think you probably know him.
Yes.
We both independently, not knowing the other person was doing it, we called the police in Cincinnati to ask them if they had any calls to that area, because most of the people there, we heard gunshots. We heard a voice saying, no, stop, don't do it. And a woman sobbing. And it turned out that all their teams had heard the exact same thing.
Oh, wow.
The exact same sequence of events. It was nuts. That night too, like that night I told God, like, I'm never doing this again. I promise. I was so scared. We, my friend and I, Wanda, she's from Indiana. We had driven there together. And so I wanted to leave like right away because I was really scared. And there was something else that happened that night where we were having a seance, stupid, crazy, I know. And this guy was with us and he had never been on anything like this before. And he was a total skeptic. And his arm, he felt like his arm was burning. And you could see on the thermal camera that his arm looked like it was like red.
Oh, wow.
And he had this burn on his arm when we turned the lights back on. So it was all this wild stuff was happening. And my friend and I, like at the crack of dawn, we got in the car to drive home. And we're so tired because we had left, the Chicago area like the morning before, and we had been up all night. We were going to get a hotel like in the next town. And, if the next turn off, like, off the expressway with where there's like the Comfort Inn and the Cracker Barrel and all that,
Uh-huh.
And it was like a Tuesday night in like spring. And there were no hotel rooms. So we turn off and there's like 3 hotels. There's no rooms available. So we get back in the car and we drive to the next turn off where there's hotels. There's no rooms available.
Wow.
We drive to the next place where there's hotels. There's no rooms available. And we're completely exhausted. I was driving. I almost like drove into like oncoming traffic on the other side of the highway.
Oh, wow.
And we were both convinced that whatever was there was trying to hurt us, had come along with us and was trying to hurt us, whatever was at that rectory. It was a place where, you probably know this, where apparently they sent priests who had been pedophiles, whatever, Catholic priests.
Mm-hmm.
They sent them to live there, and then when that was shut down, it was used for dog fights.
Yes, I did hear that.
All the these scratches on the backs of all the doors and all the rooms where these poor dogs had been holed up in there. So really, really tragic,
I'm trying to
place.
I'm trying to remember if that's the place or not. There was an investigator I knew. It's either that place or a similar place like that, where she had a bad experience, and it turned out one of the workers was doing black magic and devil worshiping.
Oh gosh.
And when she left there, she kept on hearing chanting, and bad things started happening to her. And then I think she even broke a leg or arm or something like that. But
it might have been that place, because I think someone was talking about that there had been stuff going on there before, like long before that. There had been some kind of ritual activity that had been going on there.
Yeah.
So it might have been that place. Same thing with Bachelor's Grove. So much ritual activity that went on in those woods there, like back in the 60s and 70s. And it's like Richard Crowe used to say, the layer cake effect. Like, you don't know like what came first, like the ghosts or the demons from the ritual activity, or
Right.
it just comes like a big mess.
That place is awesome, though, Bachelor's Grove. It's been a while since I've been there, but it never disappointed me.
I've really come to believe that that's one of those places, like, like on Skinwalker Ranch, they call them like stargates, where it's like just this giant portal where all of the stuff, the cryptids and the ghosts and the demons and the UFOs and everything else is experienced at these places, fairies, all that stuff. And it's like really there in this little goofy cemetery in the suburbs, but
yeah,
I guess so.
You know what I find amazing on our last investigation was at the Brumner Mansion, Milwaukee. How sometimes, I'm not the type that will provoke in someone's residence or something. Sometimes if it's a prison, jail, or a gangster place or something, maybe I'll stir the pot a little bit then. But if it's someone's house or something like that, I would never do that, because I don't want to make things worse. But sometimes how you could
fly here, it's not a ghost. If you see that on the camera,
somehow you could play the part or do reenactments or something like that. Like sometimes I'll bring if it's a jail or prison, I'll bring some work gear, a nightstick, handcuffs, a police shirt and stuff like that. And like the jail in where's it in Michigan, Indiana, Crown Point, Indiana.
Crown Point jail, yeah,
where
John Dillinger was.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really cool that Matt and I brought my police hat, cuffs, and it just kind of trying to stir the pot a little bit by acting like, I'm the new boss and hitting with the nightstick, hitting the jail cells, and I'm taking over. I'm like, you should be ashamed of yourself. They had to call Chicago police to take over because you guys are acting like animals and stuff. And it's just funny. We got just acting like that type of atmosphere. It became active.
Yeah.
And
It's
I remember
familiar.
we got a response. Matt went in and he said, "I'm going to toss the cell," but I thought he was doing a like prison talk, like they do in movies. Excuse the expression, but I thought he said, "I'm going to toss salad." Like that prison term. I'm like, "What, Matt? We're having none of that in here, especially when I'm around." I acted like a boss, like I was a supervisor. I'm like, "No tossing salads. In fact, no self gratification when I'm around." And then I get a voice. I swear to God, I get a voice saying, "Is it wrong?" It's
Yeah.
it's funny how you can play the part and kind of bring that energy back when it was active.
Mhm.
Like at the Brumner Mansion, we were just at knowing that it had gangster ties, back in the day, and speakeasy and strippers and stuff in the basement. So we kind of, from doing a regular investigation, we kind of turned it into the basement, going back into that time, kind of adult humor talk and stuff.
Mhm.
And we we got voices that were interacting. We got laughing. We got a female voice saying something perverted that she wanted to do. I'm not going to say it on the air, but it's funny how with certain locations you could just act a part if it's gambling or whatever. It helps seem to bring out activity.
Yeah.
I'm sure you experienced that before.
Oh yeah, definitely. I used to a lot of times I would dress up in like 19th century clothes and
Yes,
stuff when I would go into houses from that era where the, whatever spirits that had died were from that era. And it really seems to make a difference, that there seems to be more interaction, just like you said.
yeah. And I'm not doing it to just be disrespectful, but just
Yeah.
sometimes knowing I'm at a location and hate the police. Like if it was Al Capone's place that's been raided by the police millions of times, I know wearing a uniform or breaking out the star or a gun or something, I'm going to get a reaction. But I mean, if it's a regular earthbound spirit or something, I'm not going to provoke or disrespect. But sometimes when it's gangsters or something like that, prisoners, you know,
Yeah.
I'll do it. But
I'm curious as to what you think after all these years. I know the Catholic Church, which I belong to, believes that I know I've heard some exorcists say that sometimes God will allow someone to stay to serve like part of their purgatory here on earth, like where they died or where they sinned. And so I guess that's possible that some of these spirits could be that. I've also heard exorcists say that there's no church teaching on it, but maybe some human spirits that are damned are allowed to roam the earth until judgment day, so we could be maybe encountering some of those also that are very malevolent, that seem like they're not human but they are, but they're just
right,
very bad.
right.
What are your thoughts after all these years about why these, if they're human spirits, why would they, some of them be here and others not be here?
That's a good question. I think about that a lot. Um, I think there's many reasons. I mean, I think some might not. I don't know what your beliefs are, and I dealing with some of the psychic mediums I deal with, and then even some of the Native Americans preach something very similar. I did like the psychic mediums that I have dealt with say, you get 3 days to go into the light, and then if you don't, then your spirit's energy is earthbound. Um, I get a lot of help me's from the other side. So I'm wondering, what are these help me's? Did you need help? These spirits, they need to be guided into the light, to move on to the next step.
Prayers, that's what they need, is prayers.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think some, like for instance, say I die suddenly of a heart attack, and I'm worried. Okay, who's going to take care of my daughter? Who's going to take care of my wife? Or
Yeah.
say if or if my wife's very sick or something, and I
Right.
die suddenly, and now I'm scared to move on to the next step, and I stay earthbound because I'm worried about my wife or daughter who's going to take care of them. Or even if it's a homicide victim or a fatal accident, or life might be taken so quickly that they're not ready to move on, and they miss that opportunity, almost like Patrick Swayze in the movie Ghost. He never
Right.
went into that
Sure.
light.
Mhm.
He had a unfinished business. And I think some people that are evil, committed sin, murder, they might not want to go. They don't want to.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. They and then some of them might maybe even like being earthbound, and especially if they're more on the evil side, and then they pull their
Yeah.
tricks and what
Yeah.
roping or whatever they want to do.
We always hear the idea that people who are addicts have a really hard time going on because they're still addicted. So that's why a lot of bars are haunted and things like that. Actually heard that from so many people. It's very like
I could see that. I could see that
strange.
as a
Yeah.
possibility.
Yeah. But I've thought that for years that, especially being someone that believes, that God gives us free will. Like, why would our free will end when we die? Maybe, some people, their will is just so strong and they prefer to stay here. Or like you said, they're afraid to see what's on, what's waiting for them further on.
Right.
So, or maybe like you said, they like it here. They like it here even better than, maybe something else that's waiting.
Right.
I
I'm
don't
sure
know.
there's several that, and I think some of them maybe are tired of staying here and want to move on. And that's where these help me's are coming from. They need the guidance from whoever
Yeah.
could help them. I get a lot of get outs and you know, leave nows too. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's like
yeah,
the bulk of it. It's either the helps or the get outs,
outs,
or
yeah,
or worse than that, the cursing.
yeah. It seems like it's always a lot of maybe even older people. They probably think I'm trespassing or something. They
Yeah.
see it as their old farmhouse or something like that, and like, what is this guy doing here? Get
Oh my
out,
gosh. My mom's house was torn down by developers a couple years ago after she died. And she absolutely loved that house. She lived in it alone after my dad died 1986 until she died in 2018. And that was fine with her because that was her house.
house.
And she wanted my family and I to live in it after she died, but it just didn't work out with how the estate. We had a big court thing with the trustee, but
Okay.
yeah, her house was torn down and they built this huge, like mega, like Chicago mansion, in its place. And I just like sometimes my husband and I say, like, we're gonna go, like, so we're gonna send them a letter and be like, hey,
If
how's
she
it
loved that
going?
house, if she loved that house so much, the energy still might be, her energy,
Oh my gosh.
even
And
if she
she
moved on, I
was
mean, she still might.
fierce. So I don't know. But she also, I think, was ready. My dad, she wanted to see my dad. Her sister had just passed away the year before. All of her brothers and sisters had passed away. Her best friends, so I think she was ready. But she loved that house. So I don't know. I can't be sure.
No, I don't think we ever talked about this. I always wondered what your thoughts were when it comes to items like antiques to stuff at garage
Oh, yeah.
sales. I was skeptical at first, but now I had some cases that I do believe items could hold energy. What are your thoughts on that, if you don't mind me asking?
I had a brick from the St. Valentine's Day Massacre wall
Oh,
that I purchased from Matt Hookie that I wrote Graveyards of Chicago with.
uh-huh.
So he had one of them and I bought it from him when he moved to Seattle a few years ago because he was getting rid of a lot of his stuff. And I had it in here in the apartment for a long time. And I finally gave it to Ben Pavlon and his wife.
Oh, Ben, yeah.
And because there was stuff happening here. And I mean, it had been very quiet for a long time. And then I brought that in here, and like you said, I don't want anything in my house going on. I'm very interested in investigating it, but not not in here. And so, yeah, so I gave it to them a couple years ago.
Interesting. What opened my eyes to this a little more, and I know the psychic mediums that I deal with that I trust, both of them talk about items going to hold that um, energy, and even at a garage sale, if you pick up something, they recommend of having a spray bottle with water and sea salt, and they kind of describe it like if you cooking with a Teflon pan, nothing sticks to it. So they say spray the item you're going to take before you even put it in your car, and then energy should just slide right off. And I kind of believe it now. I mean, just with some of the cases, like I'll give you an example. The place where I got attacked, scratched in Wisconsin a couple times, there was also other spirits there. And this spirit, this male spirit, came from her old place to this place, and she didn't connect the two dots. And we were lucky enough that we connected it, where she found this. She was an artist also, so she found this fake fireplace, like an art piece, on the curbside of her old place. And she's like, "Oh, this is kind of nice. I could redo it, make it, nice." And so she brought it in, redid it. Ever since then, she had this male spirit would lean against it, the fireplace, and then walk to her room down the hallway, and then stand over her. And that's the route it would take. She didn't connect it to that, so she brings it to the new place. Same spirits there, leaning against the fireplace, would go to her room, stand over her, and back and forth. And so, we figured it out. Okay, it's got to be this. And then with the history, we found out through her old neighbors that the guy who made this, that was his favorite piece, and he committed suicide. So his energy was still connected with that. And so she got rid of it that night where we were there investigating. We helped her move it out, put it on the curbside. The old spirit gone, never saw it again. Wow. So, I mean, what is that? I mean, there's something that, his energy was connected to that. And then once she got rid of it, never had any problems.
Yeah. So mysterious, isn't it? So many mysteries about how things all work.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it fascinating. I love it. I mean, there's times where things get a little scary, but for the most part, I love doing it, and I love being able to help people.
Yeah. Yeah. And you sure have helped a lot of people. Well, I know you sometimes bring Misty out to events and things. Anything coming up that people can come and meet you and check it out?
Jack, is it Chavez?
Yeah.
Works with Tony. I guess they're having an event, paranormal conference or ghost conference in June, and he asked me if I could bring the truck out and set up some tables and stuff. So I think that might be the first one that I'm aware of. But I love bringing it out. I love showing it.
I know you do. It's so awesome when you do it. So it's so cool. Where can people find out about your stuff? You're on Facebook?
Facebook, Instagram, and then our website is chicagoparanormal.com.
Okay, I'll put all your links down in the description of this video on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on Buzzsprout, head over to YouTube and you get all that info there. Or I'll try to put it somewhere on Buzzsprout as well. So you can go and check out Dave's cool stuff. Oh man, Dave, this has been great. Thank you so much.
I love talking about this, and I'm honored. I always love talking to you or anything when any events you have. I mean,
yeah, we had some great times with those ghost cons we used to do, right?
Yeah, I can't believe the knowledge you have. I'm never one that could retain all that, but you're like a encyclopedia. It's unbelievable.
Oh my gosh, I feel like my brain is like a sponge, like not the opposite of a sponge, a sieve. Like everything just goes. I feel like I forget everything, but
no, you're really good with it. I have to say, you're one of the best.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I think just like you, it's just something that I'm so passionate about. So you hold on to all that stuff, Yeah,
it's kind of, I don't know, it's probably kind of corny, but with doing this, I think I almost feel like it's some type of calling, not
yeah, I agree.
There's something that's meant for me to continue on I'm not sure what it is yet. I mean,
I've always felt like it's like, I always felt it was like the so-called dark ages when like all the monasteries were holding, keeping all the information alive, all the scholarship alive and copying all the, like I've always felt like that we're like keeping all of this, the interest and the study of this alive as the rest of society says it's ridiculous, it's stupid, it's not true, and all that. So in this, this society that's totally materialistic, like we're keeping the reality of this alive until they come to their senses and they start to study it,
right,
mainstream science, which is starting to happen actually now
right,
after all these years,
yeah.
you know. So it's kind of cool. It's
No,
kind of
it
cool.
really is. And
It'd be nice if they came to us to see like what we knew about it, but they don't. But it's still cool to see.
yeah, yes, it is.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much for being here tonight, and I wish you well, and pray for you all the time while
well, thank
out
you.
there doing all your stuff. And we're gonna pray for all of these souls that we've talked about tonight in all of your investigations, hoping that they will have moved on or will move on to
You know
a
what,
better
one that
place.
bugs me, if you don't mind me, I was going to bring it up earlier.
Not at all.
I just don't want to get myself into trouble, but it actually bothers me. I think I can't contact her anymore, so I think she moved on. Maybe this is all she needed. But with the Flight 191,
Oh
there's
yeah,
a female that came through, and it seems like a lot of this activity.
because you investigated the crash site of flight 191, the crash of 1979.
Yeah, that's all under
I
construction
didn't
now.
think I could bring that up, so I did.
Yeah,
You
I don't
probably
know what,
shouldn't
yeah,
either.
but this one, I mean, it's awesome, but it's how can I say? It bothers me because it's all turning into the expressway ramp. To me, it's like going through a
That
cemetery.
scene bothers that whole thing bothers me so much.
My whole goal
More
was
than any other place, it bothers me.
my whole goal was to set any spirits free that's willing. I even had mediums come in from Arizona just to try to move on. Anything that's still there that's willing, because I feel terrible, and but I this lady came through. We had pictures of some of the victims that the family posted. We had the list of names. Could never get the manifest of the seating chart yet. I'm working on it, but I haven't got it yet. But it seems like the ones that are there are 30. The number 30 keeps on coming through, and the voices that's coming through seem to be victims from the list of 30. So there's 30 victims that never got identified out of the 273.
Oh, okay.
So we're wondering if this is the 30 that are still wandering out there. And so as we're going through the list of names and photos, this lady cuts in and she says, I'm 99% sure she's saying her seat number, her first initial and last name. So she's saying 9G, A for Anna Harrison. She's on the list, but never got identified. And I think this was her way of saying, hey, this is me. This is where I was sitting. This is who I am. And I think that's all she needed to say, because she won't come through again. And I played it for her. I went out there and I said, Anna, we heard you. We got your seat number. Thank you so much. And, you won't be forgotten. And so I think that's all she needed, and she won't come through anymore. And then I got another victim from the list of 30, John Robinson. Some other names that are kind of hard to make out, but they sound like names. And then when I was out there, I talked to him like you and I are talking. I explained to the pilots over and over again. I said, hey, if you haven't moved on because you feel guilty of the plane crashing, it was determined there's nothing you could have done, is not your fault. If you're here because of that, there's no need to move on, And I think the last time I was there, I finally got through to, I believe, Walter Lux. I've been trying to get through to him all the other times I was there, and I think he got sick of hearing me. And the first time I ever got an EVP saying I crossed. Now, what would I cross mean? I'm to me, I'm thinking he's telling me, hey, I'm okay. I crossed. I already went to the other side. I've never got an EVP
Hmm.
talking about the other side before, about crossing over.
Mhm.
But I think he was saying, he came through and said, Dave, I'm fine. Leave me alone. I crossed.
Mhm.
But I was out there talking with the spirit box, and I'm saying, how many spirits haven't moved on yet? Are you all still here, or just a few? And then I get a male voice coming through and saying 30, clear as day. So everything seems to lead back to like 30. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking it's these 30 victims that never got identified and not at rest. So hopefully that Anna Harrison and maybe that John Robinson knew I heard its name. I played it for him out there on the field, and hopefully they helped him move on. But it was very important to me because,
Yeah,
like
I
I said,
can
I feel
tell.
like it's
I
being
just
a
really
graveyard being
think
dug up.
I really feel that. I mean, your genuine concern for
Yeah, it bothers me.
people really comes through, and I really believe that your love for these people really helps them to to get to heaven. I really do.
I did what I can. I even had uh, a priest come, gave a blessing, two mediums to try to guide them through the best they can before they turn into this to a busy expressway ramp. So that was a project of mine, just to help clear these spirits. Before it became that expressway ramp. I don't know if I can even get back out there again.
Yeah.
But we had legit workers that worked out there that work for that Chicago Police Canine, the training center, and there's legit officers that's talk about having experiences there. Because when there's a dog that's there being kenneled, someone's got to be there 24 hours, and they'll talk about everything's caged in. You got the razor wire fences, you got the trailers, and they talk about at times they'll hear knocks on the trailer doors. There's no one there. The wee
Right.
hours in the
Yeah.
morning. The one guy says he thinks he's being that a coworker snuck in and is playing the trick on him, but there's no one there. There's no car.
Right.
Radio station switching on its own. Footsteps passing by him. Dogs growling at a doorway or corner when there's no one there. And you could feel in certain parts. You could feel the heavy energy. It's 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 amazing, but it's sad. So
Yeah.
I
No, I
did met.
think I'm glad you brought this up because I think in May I do a blog every month focusing on one particular place or event and whatever souls might be there. I'm gonna do in May on the anniversary, I'll do 191. Maybe give them an extra push.
Yeah, because I'm sure, and not only that, you have a lot of. Since I started working at the airport, you got a lot of fatal accidents that happen along 2E.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
people trying to cross the road late at night or the wee hours
Yeah.
of the morning, pitch dark, and it's
Yeah.
along there and along Irving Park.
And
I
Irving Park too. Yeah.
I got that little cemetery that's still there. Um, and some downtime when I'm on the airfield and stuff. Like maybe during my lunch, I'll pull over or whatever. And I got EVPs from that. Was it West Haven?
Mm-hmm.
That little cemetery that's still off of South Access Road by the FedEx.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually has some activity.
Rest Haven.
Yeah. So I think that little section that is open to the public. Um, I mean, I think people could come visit because that you don't have to go through a secured gate or anything on the airfield side. And I've been on the airfield where they removed all the bodies. That was at St. John's Church and
Yeah. St.
Cemetery.
John's, yeah.
I've been there.
That was a terrible situation too. They ended up just bulldozing all those remains.
Yeah.
Horrible.
So I'm just I'm just trying to give them a voice. If
Yeah.
anyone has is pissed off, I'll give them another chance to give them their voice. But Yeah, the airport has a lot going on. That
Yeah.
whole area. So, but
Well, this has been so great, Dave.
yeah, sorry. I felt like I needed.
No, I'm glad that
even though
I'm glad that
probably
you
shouldn't have
did.
talked about it. I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but
If you
it's
have
just-
second thoughts after we do this, you can let me know over the weekend. I can always take it out.
yeah, it's just
Don't worry
you know
about
what,
it. It'll show on Tuesday, so you get till Tuesday to make up your mind.
I'm not showing evidence or anything, but I'm just trying to do good for that
Yeah.
location. That's all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, you do. You do. Well,
Thank you.
thanks a million, and good luck with everything. And yeah, like I said, I keep you guys in my prayers all the time, and all the best
here.
to you and your family. And maybe I'll see you in the summer out and about.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you
Take good
so much.
care. All right.
Always a
Have a good night,
pleasure.
Dave.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to This Present Darkness. The video version of this podcast is available on Ursula Bielski's World of the Supernatural YouTube channel. Be sure to become a subscriber by signing up with Buzzsprout today. And remember to sign up for the World of the Supernatural mailing list at worldofthesupernatural.com for our monthly newsletter and more. And don't forget to support the podcast through Patreon.